me today on the Breakfast Club, Sumit Chander, lawyer, Supreme Court. All right, Advocate Chander, let me just come to you first. We'll quickly go through the major points on this first. What do you think has triggered this revamp? As I mentioned, the earlier framework perhaps seemed more like a patchwork. Why do you think this was triggered now? And also to that, why did it take so long?
The reforms always take time. There's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, should those reforms happen? Yes, delayed, could have been done much earlier. But now that it has happened, I think it was long awaited. I think this should have come much earlier. But at least now it has come, and it's a very important reform. Like you rightly pointed out, 29 separate labor laws, all overlapping with each other in some places. Certain important issues getting overlapped. At least now we have something which is standardized, fixed, and that should be helpful for both the industrial as well as the laborers. And not only it's 29 separate labor laws, what you're also looking at is the 1400 rules under these laws that were there. So possibly now things should consolidate and make life easier both for the industries as well as for the workers.
All right, into the...
See, like I pointed out earlier, were certain overlappings in certain places. Then the IT industry came in much later after the old laws came into existence. So that is why, and the women working in the industries, all these protections, these needs, I think evolved over a period of time. When the problems evolve over a period of time, it becomes necessary for the reforms to come in. Now, as pointed out rightly by my learned friend, that once a reform is introduced in the parliament or suggestions are called for from all the stakeholders, so these discussions take time. And I think after a lot of thought, after a lot of practical approach from both the aspect of the industries as well as the workers, they finally came up with some law, consolidating it and simplifying. For industries, simplifying one registration, one license, one return, and other aspects. For laborers and workers, I think to a great extent, a lot of things have been consolidated in terms of their pays, their gratuity, PF, enforcing whatever the laws were there earlier. Now enforcing them practically here. Once the laws are simplified into certain codes and smaller codes, it becomes easier to implement. So I hope with these new laws, the implementation should also become better. So it will help both the industries as well as the workers. See, like I said, once you consolidate the acts, there's less overlapping. Once there is less overlapping, things are much more clearer as to what needs to be implemented and how they are to be implemented. When you do this, first thing you remove, because of the 29 different laws with more than 1400 rules, is the power of what we used to call the Inspector Raj, who would come, use some law, some old act, some provision they would come up with and then try to enforce in a manner just for personal gains. Those things now with much more clarity and lesser codes will now not be possible and that Inspector Raj, which was there earlier, would now and should disappear. Now, because the compliances become less complicated, the compliances should take place. Like I said, now there are lesser, only one return needs to be filed, things need one license required for various things. So all the compliances, once you simplify it, it encourages people both for the industries as well as for the employees to ensure that the compliances are done, and not only done from their part, but also ensured that they are made more effective. So I think it's a good move, and let's see how the implementation finally we'll get to know when it practically comes down on the floor. See, earlier the wages were separate, EPF, ESI, bonus, gratuity, everything was separate. Now what they have done is now the new laws combine everything under the definition of wages itself. So now when you say wages, it includes already all the things, all the benefits that were earlier given. With these kind of simplifications and I think the way this has happened, not only the gig workers, I think all employees in general would benefit from this. I mean, of course, they're both sides of the story. Though now the unions are recognized, now what their law also has provides for that earlier you could go on strike on immediately or whenever the workers would decide. Now the labor unions would have to give a longer notice period. That would give more time for the industry to take care of whatever the situation is, possibly settle it also. Not only this, there is an expanded prohibition during the conciliation period. So now they are mandatorily, during the conciliation period, they are prohibited from doing otherwise the acts they would have done, which earlier was possible. So there are both the advantages and disadvantages are there. Like my learned friend pointed out, the notice period, the unions are recognized. That's a huge advantage. The negative, if I may say, would be basically the notice period or expanded prohibition during the conciliation period. The tribunal proceedings have now, been more regulated. So all these things have their own advantages and disadvantages. But I would say it is an overall need for the society, for both the benefit of the industry as well as the employees, that this provisions do come into existence. So nothing wrong with that. But yes, anytime anything new comes, it will have its own advantages and disadvantages. I think it will again boil down to how it's implemented on the flow with time. See, it's very simple. I mean, if the laws are for the benefit for both the industries as well as the workers, I think every state government would participate and should participate, in fact, to make the rules as practically required for their states. The basic laws the central government has come up with, like I said, they have thresholds and other limitations they have put, which will have to be a minimum wage and things which will be now the central government has notified. The state government, through their rules, have to just tweak it to suit the needs of that state and their workmen and their issues. So they will have to do a consultation with both the industries as well as the worker unions. And finally, the rules will have to be made out. But I think it should and would get implemented because these laws are long awaited and need to be implemented for the benefit of the society at large.
Well,
True. And those uncertainties, again, like I said, would take time to get ironed out. And that is where the coordination between the government, the states, needs to be taken into consideration. And I'm sure it's all a matter of time. At least things have started, a big step has been taken, and now we just await the implementation of that.
so how do you think enforcement agencies will be able to upgrade capacity to monitor compliance across India's vast informal sector as well? That's a big thing.
That indeed is a big thing. In fact, now trainings, of course, will have to be given. Since the new laws have come into place, the compliances have, in a manner become upgraded. I would say it has not changed. They have already been doing this, but the way, like they rightly pointed out, now they are not just the enforcing agency, they are also facilitators, as the name has been given to them. So let's hope how they are trained and how they implement, end of the day will boil down to how it works. But yes, things are in place and let's see how it works. But it's in the right direction. It's a way forward. And I think this was long awaited. So let's see how it works.